Now, did Daniel say, King, is this what you dreamt? No, he said plainly to the king, this is what you dreamt, and now I will tell you what it means. So verse 36 just shows how Daniel's faith in God was firm based on what God showed him. So, what was the interpretation? Verse 37 says, Thou, O king, art a king of kings. The God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And whatsoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for so much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with miry clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to thee what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So let us recap on what we have studied here. Nebuchadnezzar was given a dream which he forgot. He goes to his wise men who don't and cannot reveal the dream. This makes the king furious, and out of rashness he puts forth a decree which included the people he admired. Daniel, instead of acting in fear and terror, acts with wisdom. He requests time for the king to make known the dream and the interpretation. As he prays, God reveals to him the dream and praises him for it. He tells the king the dream and the interpretation, and now the interpretation is made manifest, and the interpretation, Daniel says, is sure. Now we are told in verse 38 that Nebuchadnezzar represented the head of gold, and that another kingdom will rise after his kingdom, and that kingdom will rise after that kingdom. Now, just on a historical basis, the order is as follows. The gold represented Babylon, and that was from 605 BC to 539 BC. The next kingdom was silver, and this was the Medes and the Persians, and their reign was 539 to 331 BC. After that was brass, which represented Greece, and that date was from 331 to 168 BC, and that was ruled by Alexander the Great. And there's something very interesting as we go on today about Alexander. The next was the iron, which represented Rome, and that was from 168 to 476 AD. So that's 168 BC to 476 AD. Now, just in reference to that last kingdom of iron, it says in Edward Gibbons, the historian, the arms of the Republic, sometimes vanquished in battle, always victorious in war, advanced with rapid steps to the Euphrates and Danube, the Rhine and ocean, and the images of gold or silver or brass that might serve to represent the nations and their kings were successfully broken by the Iron Monarchy of Rome. So after the iron, we have the feet of clay and iron, and their reign was from 476 AD to this present day. Rome was divided from within, and Europe today still remains divided. And there is much more to say in regards to this nation, which time will not permit, but this will be covered in a later study, so stay tuned for that. Now, this is just on a historical basis. We need to now see if this is biblical. Does the Bible confirm that the next kingdom to rule was the Medes and Persians? Daniel chapter 5 verse 30 and 31 says, "In the night was Belteshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old." So we can see clearly that the next kingdom was the Medes and the Persians. So who was next after the Medes and Persians? Greece. But does the Bible confirm this too? Now, as we go through the book of Daniel, it is not mentioned in Daniel chapter 2, but in Daniel chapter 8, where Daniel receives another vision of a ram and a goat representing kingdoms, we will cover this in another future study also. This is what it says. In Daniel chapter 8 verse 5 it says, "And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. And he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand." Verse 20 and verse 21 shows who these kingdoms are. It says, "The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king." So we see clearly that the Bible is in line with history. And finally, after Greece, it was Rome, according to history. But does the Bible prove this also? Who was ruling in the time of Jesus? The Roman Empire. If you read through Luke chapter 2 verse 1 to 4, it shows that the ruler of that time was Caesar Augustus. But did Rome destroy Greece? It is interesting that the Greek Empire did not lose in being overtaken, but it split into four. And as we see in verse 21, a great horn, this represented Alexander the Great. He died by drinking himself to death, and as history confirms, that his kingdom was split into four of his generals, that being Cassander, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and Lysimachus. The Bible is also proven of this fact in verse 22, which says, "Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power." So we see clearly that even the Bible talked of four generals rising up out of the Greek Empire. So now, after Rome, the kingdom was divided into 10 nations, which make up Europe today. And there is even more to say in a future study on this topic itself, as mentioned before. Guess how much toes there are? 10. Isn't that something? The Bible prophecy of the image is going through point by point into the future, and right now we are living in the toes of the image. I believe God is trying to tell us something in order for us to be ready for that time. What do you think? Do you want to be ready to meet the next great event? What is next to come is the great stone. After this stone, that is it of all the kingdoms. So now we want to ask the most imperative question.